Hello and welcome back to another episode of From Prison to the Streets. I'm Eric. I did a bunch of time in prison and I talk about prison stuff. So today we are talking about Dennis Rader, the BTK Killer. Dennis Rader and I were housed in the same facility for a long time. And I'm not going to lie to you, I wasn't chummy with the guy. I didn't have any long conversations with him. I had a few interactions with him and I can tell you what his life was like in prison. So, yeah, be sure to like and subscribe. We are going to get into this now. If you are not familiar with the BTK Killer, with Dennis Rader, he was a serial killer who terrorized Wichita, Kansas, and the surrounding area for a number of years. I believe his first victims were in the 1970s. I believe in 1974 he started out his killing spree by killing an entire family, minus the one family member who wasn't home. And he killed several more people over the span of decades. I believe his last victim was in 1991, his last killing. In the early 2000s, they started giving credit to some of his crimes to other people, and he was offended by it. And he started corresponding with a news agency, taking credit for it, sending photos and drawings and stuff like that, photos of driver's license and drawings that he had made of the crime scenes and stuff like that. And that is how he ended up getting himself caught. He sent somebody, I don't remember if it was a news agency or a police department, information on a floppy disk, and the floppy disk was tracked back to his church and he was captured. From there, they kind of singled him out as a suspect, and then using DNA evidence they got him. And that would have been in 2005, I believe he was caught, and he was convicted in 2005, and he was sentenced to 10 consecutive life sentences. And as far as I know, he was serving out his sentence in El Dorado Correctional Facility. However, he may have been moved to Hutch because they were talking about moving Supermax to Hutchinson Correctional Facility, which is another prison in Kansas. When I was in El Dorado, I had several jobs. Among them, I was an infirmary porter and I was an electrician. And both of those jobs allowed me access to people who were Supermax inmates. When guys would get sick, they would come down to the infirmary, come down and, talk to the clinic staff and try to get to feeling better. So I was down there and I saw a lot of the guys that came through. Sometimes I would talk to them. Sometimes it was just a brief hello, hi, how are you, whatever. And as an electrician, we would go into Supermax and we would work on guys' cells, and that actually allowed for a little bit more conversation. And they would pull the inmate out of their cell, we would go in, fix whatever was wrong, and then, we would leave and they'd put the inmate back in. I had a few conversations with the guy. I don't even remember what was said, just, an exchange of, hello, how are you, whatever, what's wrong, is your light broken, whatever. The impression that I had from him was that he was polite, well-spoken, but nothing beyond that. However, one of the things that I can tell you about is how he was regarded by other inmates in the prison and what his life was like. Other inmates didn't typically like Dennis Rader. There's a few reasons for that. One, he primarily preyed upon women, and people who prey upon women and children in prison aren't well liked at all. The other thing is he had a reputation for being a rat. He would allow maintenance guys to come in his cell and work on his stuff, and he would tell the maintenance guys, hey, I have coffee in my locker if you want to grab some coffee out of it, for fixing my light or my light switch, whatever, you're welcome to it. And then after the cops put Dennis back in his cell, he would yell out of his door and tell the cops that the maintenance guy had just stolen coffee out of his cell or stolen something out of his cell. You see, he would try to set people up and just try to get people in trouble to make their lives a little bit more miserable. So that's the type of inmate he is. He gets off on making other people's lives harder. Now, what was his life like? Well, he's Supermax, and he's probably never going to come off Supermax. In Supermax, you're locked down 23 hours a day. You don't come out of your cell unless you're in handcuffs. It doesn't matter if you're going to the shower or what, they cuff you up before you get out of your cell. They open your door and they lead you to the shower in handcuffs. They put you in the shower, they close the door behind you, you turn around, they uncuff you, and that's that. You get an hour out of your cell a day in a dog cage for recreation. That's how you're living in Supermax. You're not given any physical contact with other inmates. You can have no physical contact with someone from the streets. So visitation, if he gets any visits whatsoever, they're all video visits because he's segregation, he's Supermax. And, you know, when they shake down the cells down in Supermax, they usually toss them. They usually search your cells. So if he has a bunch of extra stuff or stuff he's not supposed to have, he's not keeping it very long. The cops are going to find it and take it away. And that's his life, day in, day out. 23 hours a day, locked in a little ass cell. He gets an hour out to go to a dog cage, and he gets to shower 3 days a week. That's his life. And it's kind of fitting for him, I guess. You know, I'm not a big advocate of long-term segregation. It does weird stuff to your head. But the guy's no good. He did some horrible stuff. I'm not saying that punishment is right for him. You know, torture is bad, and he tortured people. That's what BTK stood for. Bind, torture, kill. And Supermax segregation is a sort of torture. I don't feel bad for the guy, don't get me wrong. But whether or not that's right for him to be in Supermax, I don't know. This is kind of the challenge with people, you know. You have people that don't believe long-term segregation should ever be used. However, what do you do with people like Dennis Rader? If they put him out in general population, he's going to get stabbed. The other inmates are going to stab him. They're not going to have him walking around in general population. It's just not going to happen. His victims were primarily women. They included children. They also included men. You know, I don't mean to kind of just gloss over his male victims like it wasn't a big deal. But in prison, if you're a predator towards women and children, you're looked down upon. And so he's famous, and he preyed upon women and children. Yeah, he gets put in general population, someone's killing him just to make a name for themselves. And because he preyed upon women and children. Period. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Dennis Rader. Kind of gives you an insight into how he's living. And what do you think about Supermax? What do you think about being locked up 23 hours a day? Is it okay for some people? Should it never be used? Is there a happy medium? You tell me what you think. I'll be looking in the comments. I'm Eric. This has been another episode of From Prison to the Streets. I will see y'all later. They can't know what can be